Hello, it's your boy, Elio here. Come to talk to you about an RPG Maker game that might have flown under your radar in recent years. So, throughout the years, I've noticed various trends, you might call it, in the RPG Maker community. First, starting off with either Yume Nikki fan games or Yume Nikki inspired games, with not so much story and more environmental storytelling, coming up with your theories as you explore. Then evolving towards games similar in execution to Eve, with games with a bit more of a solid storyline, but still a bit crazy in the horror aspect. Then we got games that tackle the meta and feature RPG elements that can bring out the horror of horror RPG games like Undertale. And finally, we're here at Death Games Done in RPG Maker. That's not to say it's a new trend since Danganronpa walked so a bunch of these games could run, but Your Turn to Die's success, especially in the vein of Danganronpa fans and Danganronpa fan games like Danganronpa and Other being done in RPG Maker, certainly did help push the genre further in terms of RPG Maker limelight. And that's where this game that I'm going to talk about today comes into play. While a lot of these death games are very popular right now due to audience interest, this game kinda sneaked past quite a lot of people's radar, and I think that's a bit of a shame. So today I'll be talking about the death game RPG Maker game called Magical DEATHPAIR. I do want to come into this by warning that Magical DEATHPAIR's deaths featured are a bit more realistic and gory compared to something like Danganronpa. It also deals with like 3 girls being forced into compromising situations by their male partners, which can be very, uncomfortable. The whole thing reeks of non-con, and I hated those moments of the game. So if that's a major turnoff to you, I completely understand if you want to turn off this video right now. I think the world of Magical DEATHPAIR has a lot of potential as a death game series, though right now there's only 1 chapter of it in English on Steam. 2 if you count the Japanese-only release of Chapter 2 at the moment of me writing this. Despite it being early into its stage, I feel like the game has a lot of things that fans of death games might be looking for. First of all, what set apart this game is the fact that it is a magical girl/boy death game. Since there is magic involved in the scenario, the deaths can be more brutal and uncovering the victim can be a bit harder. The game features 2 culprits for this death game. One is a monster that has fully evolved into being a monster, and then one is a monster that has been formed recently through a contract with the monster. The game goes into some of the differences between monsters, including vindictive types, which are a lot smarter than the other types since they prey more on people's psyche and go about things by creating things like death games and such to try to harvest the despair from the people that it traps. And then you got the regular kind of stereotypical run-of-the-mill monsters that kind of lost their sanity, not really full of thinking, and just are more focused on killing whoever they can get and getting their meals. So in this game, there is 1 vindictive and then 1 monster that has recently been formed through forming a contract with the vindictive. If you ever watch Madoka Magica, this might be a bit of a similar scenario for you, with the monsters being a bit similar to the witches, in that the monster of the first chapter creates its own realm to carry out its killings, much like Madoka's witches do. Now, let's go over the 1 monster that became one because of forming a contract with the vindictive of the game. People form contracts with these because, as they are magical beings, first and foremost, they can have their wish granted in exchange for making them a monster. The caveat here being that the person is now under the monster's control and must kill others in order to continue living. The game has a similar Danganronpa feel to its game in that everyone does a vote on who they think is a monster, though in Danganronpa's case, if the vote is wrong, Monokuma will kill everyone. In this game's case, all the magical boys/girls go and kill the person they vote off in a battle royale-like situation. And this is where you get the first problem for our protagonist. Our protagonist, Vastine, is a rather brash, blunt, and not very friendly kind of protagonist. I quite like her being the main character for one, because it's nice to see more female protags in these kind of settings, especially when you think of a protag of a magically based thing. Typically the first thought will be a magical girl. Gender aside, her personality feels quite believable and realistic. I don't want to get into the first plot twist of the game, since I thought that reveal was really well done, but Vastine finds herself in a situation where she kinda has no choice but to do protag things, or else she'll die. A lot of protags in this situation are more of a bleeding heart type that want to utilize the power of friendship and bonds to overcome adversity and beat the mastermind of the game before more people die. Vastine's not that kind of person. I'd say she's kinda like So from Your Turn to Die, where survival comes first and foremost to her. She can be nice, but at the end of the day, she's calculating each degree of kindness she shows, so to alleviate suspicion from others, and to prevent people from dying, since she's in the unique, terrible circumstance that if someone dies, she's more likely than not to wind up on the majority vote Battle Royale list due to her attitude. She has to keep her magical girl ability a secret from everyone too, which doesn't help have the suspicion go down for her. You may think in this kind of death game that the deaths accompany a vote, and you would be half right. While there is a killing that jumpstarts the whole vote for a monster thing, a lot of people die in the first chapter, some even being random-ass people that wandered into the monster's territory just like you did. And the group that appears in the game aren't the first group of people trying to stop this monster. The monster's done this killing game to many people in groups and killed off every group thus far. It's gonna take some serious sleuthing to figure out who done it and to prevent people from dying, which is what I find so appealing of this game. The magical girl setup really does help the game stand out on its own compared to the more grounded in reality death games we tend to see. The plot can go wacky and insane with the plot twists, in a good way. And as is death game fashion, a lot of the characters are really interesting and get that character development to where you feel nervous over the thought of them turning up dead. I will say though, in terms of the male characters, most of them are just scumbags. Vastine's partner kissing her without consent at the start being one of the examples, and he's not the only one that does this shit. I wound up only liking maybe 3 males in the series, and even then, given the track record of very sus, non-consensual moments that the dev seems to portray in a way that comes across like they want you to think it's romantic, is not really giving me confidence in continuing to stan any of the boys I like. Except, honestly, Gretel could do no wrong. I headcanon him as a cowboy because of the localization, and he's one of my top favorites amongst the cast. Call me a Gretel apologist if he turns out to be shitty in future chapters. All of the girls are queens. Even if the boys tend to suck, the females of the game more than make up for their shittiness. I honestly can't think of a single girl in this game that I dislike, which says a lot. Sure, some characters can be a bit stubborn and hard to like at first, but even with just one chapter, I have enough characterization for them to at least go, I understand. I'd like to understand more. It just is a shame in how the women are treated by the men in this game, since this is the biggest thing that holds me back from wrecking this to people. Despite its flaws in that department, I think Magical DEATHPAIR has the potential to grow into a great death game. I just really hope the non-con stuff doesn't continue its trend with future episodes. I truly think it has one of the more interesting death game ideas in place compared to new ones cropping up. And I do think if you're a fan of games like Danganronpa or Your Turn to Die, you should at least give it a little try to see if it's your cup of tea. I also feel like, since the game doesn't really have an English fandom, while I do want to suggest watching a Let's Play to say if it's your thing, maybe even mine since it's on my channel, I do really want to urge you to purchase the game on Steam if you have the funds to. Small games like this really do need the help and attention to show the creator that their hard work is worth it, especially so since we're getting a localization of the game. I think the amount of people buying the game could make or break us continuing to get later chapters, to the point I'm kinda afraid of the states it's in now, since Chapter 2 has been out in Japan for a while, like last year? No, 2 years ago. It's 2023 now. But I haven't heard news on it coming in English yet outside of a Steam post saying they apparently announced it being worked on Twitter. I couldn't find the source, so I can only say that possibility is vague. I know a lot of people worry about incomplete games like this, but I truly do think this game deserves a chance to see what it's capable of. So, if you're looking for a unique death game to try out, maybe at least put this one on your radar? Thanks for watching! I'd like to continue a trend of making videos like this, though it really relies on what I play, and I mostly just play what I stream most of the time. I'd like to say to look out for more videos like this in the coming months, but we'll see where I get in terms of motivation. I know a lot of games out there with small fan bases that deserve a little shout out, even if my reach isn't very far by any means. I'll do my best on delivering more this year, so please wait warmly. If you'd like to help me in my video endeavors, maybe consider donating to my Ko-fi. I'd like to feature original art in this stuff, but I'm not exactly in the best financial situation to do that with every video, and I don't feel comfortable asking around for free art. If that's not your thing, then I just appreciate you watching the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what I could do better, what you'd like to see, all that jazz. I'll do my best to keep things in consideration for next time. But with all that out of the way, goodbye for now. Be sure to eat, drink, take your medication, and take care. Bye-bye!